All of us are flawed. We all have our own little imperfections, limiting beliefs, biases, incorrect assumptions, rough edges and quirks that make us individuals and make us who we are. We're far from perfect and we're far from a finished product, and that's okay. As most people develop over time, these rough edges get smoothed as we go through the world. Our perceptions get well-rounded by experience, and our ideas and beliefs are shaped by coming into contact with the realities of life. We all want these changes to be constructive, for us to become better people as we move forward through time. But this is not always the case, and today we'll find out why and 5 principles we can use to make sure our change is for the better. For the most part, this development is all done unconsciously. We're shaped by what happens to go on around us. We become products of our environment, and as a result become products of random chance. While this can result in a good outcome, it can just as easily result in something negative or destructive. A far better method of change is to make it conscious and deliberate, reminding ourselves of the goals we've set, the person we want to be, and the steps needed to get there. Stoicism is a school of ancient Greek philosophy that asks the question, how can we live a good life? More specifically, how can an individual like you and me achieve a state of being in which we flourish, which the Stoics called eudaimonia? Stoic philosophy is one of the few ancient schools of philosophy that people still apply to their day-to-day lives, standing the test of time that has eroded most other schools of thought from the same period. Its practicality and simplicity provides a perfect framework on which to build a resilient and constructive personal philosophy, and today we're going to use it as a guide to build that conscious path forward we spoke about earlier. Stoic Rule 1: Accept what you can and can't control. There is only one way to happiness, and that is to cease worrying about things which are beyond the power of our will. Epictetus. One of the most fundamental principles of Stoic philosophy is the ability to distinguish between what you can control and what you cannot. The Stoic philosopher Epictetus once said, "The chief task in life is simply this, to identify and separate matters so that I can say clearly to myself which are externals not under my control, and which have to do with the choices I actually control. Where then do I look for good and evil? Not to uncontrollable externals, but within myself to the choices that are my own." Epictetus. If we get this right, we remove the ability for the areas of life outside our control to impact our peace of mind, and we're free to focus our efforts on the areas of life we can control. This essentially makes us far more resilient and effective as individuals. If we get this wrong, we allow anything in the world around us to influence our well-being. Our peace of mind becomes a plaything of chance through our inability to decide what we can do something about and accept what we can't. Instead, we're pulled in all directions by anything around us that captures our attention or emotional energy. During his lectures, Epictetus said the following: "There are things that are within our power, and things that fall outside our power. Within our power are our own opinions, aims, desires, dislikes, and some, our own thoughts and actions. Outside our power are our physical characteristics, the class into which we were born, our reputation in the eyes of others, and honors and offices that may be bestowed on us. Working within our sphere of control, we are naturally free, independent, and strong. Beyond that sphere, we are weak, limited, and dependent. If you pin your hopes on things outside your control, taking upon yourself things which rightfully belong to others, you are liable to stumble, fall, suffer, and blame both gods and men. But if you focus your attention only on what is truly your own concern, and leave to others what concerns them, then you will be in charge of your interior life. No one will be able to harm or hinder you. You will blame no one and have no enemies. If you wish to have peace and contentment, release your attachment to all things outside your control. This is the path of freedom and happiness. If you want not just peace and contentment, but power and wealth too, you may forfeit the former in seeking the latter, and will lose your freedom and happiness along the way." Stoic Rule 2: Accept fate. One area of life that causes a lot of people a lot of suffering is the inability to accept the unraveling of events around them, despite these events being completely outside the individual's control. This could be anything from traffic, the economy, the weather, or the actions and behavior of other people. regardless of what fate has been put in front of us. If it's happened, no amount of worry, anger, jealousy, or frustration will rewind time and undo what's been done, nor will it change anything that is yet to come, if those events are outside the reach of your control. To illustrate this and help them learn to accept fate, the Stoics used the concept of amor fati, or love of fate. Nietzsche once wrote, "My formula for human greatness is amor fati, that one wants nothing to be different, not in the future, not in the past, not for all eternity. Not only to endure what is necessary, still less to conceal it. All idealism is falseness in the face of necessity, but to love it." This was the idea that instead of resisting fate, fighting it tooth and nail, and thereby causing ourselves suffering, we should learn to accept it and even love it. After all, everything that has come before you was needed for you to be here right now. Without the unfolding of all of the things before you, gas clouds wouldn't have come together to form planets and stars, stars wouldn't have bound lighter elements into heavier elements, and life itself wouldn't have begun from the most basic building blocks of life. We wouldn't have wildlife, mountains, oceans, history, or culture. You wouldn't have the ability to laugh, to feel love, to fear, to feel joy, peace, awe, wonder, and create. While there may be suffering in the world, it is exactly this suffering that's needed to make the good feel good. We need hard work to make rest feel restful. We need loss to appreciate what we have, and we need dark to appreciate light. While it's easy to focus on the areas of life that cast shadow over our well-being, the shadows are part of life, and if we want a world in which people are conscious and aware, we need to accept the shadows as part of the whole, and even learn to love them for the growth, the contrast, and the opportunities they bring. Stoic Rule 3: Accept death. Death and the fear of death can be a debilitating block on our ability to develop a durable and consistent mindset. It can even go so far as preventing people from trying new things, leaving the house, and to live in constant fear of the end. Under the fear of death, we can be robbed of life. Marcus Aurelius once said, "You could leave life right now. Let that determine what you do and say and think." This fear and uneasiness can come in many forms. We can fear for our own lives and the thought that one day our existence will end and we may just be snuffed out. Or our fear may come in the form of fear for others we love, and we may limit their experience as we try and shelter them from harm. Either way, death can be a burden depending on how we look at it, but it can also be a catalyst for good. The Stoics employed a principle called memento mori, or the practice of reminding yourself that you will die. However, this was not a morbid, fear-mongering exercise. It was designed to add beauty, gratitude, and fulfillment to life. Stoic Rule 4: Accept that your happiness is your responsibility. In the long run, we shape our lives, and we shape ourselves. The process never ends until we die, and the choices we make are ultimately our own responsibility. Eleanor Roosevelt. There's one thing people do that blocks all routes to growth, and that's blame. If we blame other people for our conditions, if we blame other people for our actions, if we blame other people for our mood, we're rejecting any responsibility. Rejecting any ownership over the things we've said, thought, and done that have put us in the position we're in. The Stoic Epictetus said, "If you want something good, get it from yourself." While blame is a nice, quick way to make ourselves feel better in the moment, and put all the fault on someone or something else, it not only stunts us long-term, it's often a lie. If we reflect on our life, there are always things we could have done, decisions we could have made, beliefs we could have changed, relationships we could have managed better, and actions we could have taken to get us from A to B, and from B to C. This is our responsibility, no one else's. If we look back on control and the things in life Epictetus drew out that are within our control, everything in there is our responsibility. He said, "Within our power are our own opinions, aims, desires, dislikes, and some, our own thoughts and actions.